Hi everyone, today I'll be talking about our hot topic, and our hot topic we decided to choose was teaching Generation Z students. Teaching Generation Z students is very important because these are the students we have in our classroom right now and are going to be in our classroom in the near future, so it's very important for us to know about them, to be able to teach them successfully and know more about them. In this image right here, it just got words that are about Generation Z students, which is internet, educated, speedy, smarter, connected, social media, sophisticated. So that goes into what is a Generation Z student. A Generation Z student is someone who is born after 1995, and they're also known as Gen X or Gen I. They follow other generations like the veterans and baby boomers, Gen X and Gen Y. Gen Y are the millennials, and Gen Z will be the people we're talking about right now. So here's some fast facts on Generation Z in America. So the racial diversity is their norm. So 49% of kids are now children of color or mixed races. And 96% of kids have health insurance. So now it's become typical for all of this generation. Teenage girls are less likely, 62% less likely to become mothers as teens. 13% of kids live in high poverty areas. So more kids call high poverty areas home. And the public safety net is wider. 27% of kids live in families that receive public assistance. Single parents family are on the rise. So 35% of kids are now growing up in single parent families. This is important going into you're going to be a teacher because you need to know the children's background, and 35% of kids are now with single parents. That will definitely affect how they are in the classroom and how you teach them and how to support them. So what makes these students different? The first thing is that they are instantly connected with others online. So they are very prone to social media accounts like Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. This makes them very tech savvy. Instead of reading an article online, they'd rather watch a video about it. I know so many people in this generation that instead of trying to have someone teach them or read something, they'll just turn it on YouTube and they'll teach themselves how to do it, which is very interesting. And I think that's very important to use in the classroom because so many kids are going to be interested in learning through YouTube versus reading something. And these students find answers on Google and YouTube, but they lack their critical thinking skills to evaluate sources. So I feel like if it's not given to them or told to them, that it's hard for them to figure out themselves. And they're very dependent on technology to solve their problems. So Generation Z versus Millennials. So one of two of Generation Zs are university educated, and most only get one degree. On the other hand, Millennials, 1 in 4 university educated, but they pursue higher qualifications. So the difference is that the Gen Z have get the basics done, but more of them have their university degree, while Millennials are more qualified past theirs, but there's less people that are getting their degree. In Gen Z, 41% multitask across 5 screens per day outside of work. And then Millennials is a lot smaller. 22% of them spend their time multitasking across different screens outside of work. So Generation Z are very good at multitasking, the high energy of screen time, and they're being able to do more than one thing at the time. They're able to listen to someone talking while they're spending time on their phone. So they're very good at multitasking. Generation Z is more entrepreneurial. They're more likely to start their own business. And millennials, they're highly focused and driven. So the similarities, they're both tech savvy, they're both multitaskers, which Gen Z is a little higher in that. They're innovative, educated, and they're strong in sales. And there's positive attributes about Generation Z students. Some consider members of Generation Z to be smarter or more self-directed and more able to quickly process information than previous generations. They're technology savvy, which we've already talked about, and researching or communicating with the world via cell phone or internet comes very easy for them, which the world is very high, and that's how it really works. Everyone is communicating online. So it's very important that they know that. And they have no fear in connecting with others, thus leading more tolerance of cultural differences. They're able to connect with more people and not just be in their bubble of wherever their city is. They're able to reach out with people all over the world and connect with those people.
So even though they have some positive attributes, they also have some negative ones. For example, they have low social interaction skills. So this makes sense since Generation Z is more to the texting, to always being on their phones or using the always being on the computer, social media and everything. The face-to-face interaction is less likely to happen, which this may cause also for them to have low team player skills, as you can see here on the slide. And also, this means because they use technology so much that they have grown up in a fast-paced environment. So versus the traditional lecture-based classroom where it's more you sit, you look at the presentations your teacher gives and so forth, books, paper, pencil. So now these Generation Z is getting used to using technology to learn in their classrooms. However, this means that they are easily tuned out when it comes to having to use pencil or paper or a book because they're not used to that, which also leads to a lack of critical thinking skills. And this goes to the fact that they use Google and other source of media to find their answers, that they're not increasing or developing their critical thinking skills, which also makes sense that they would be dependent on technology to solve their problems, meaning that's the only thing. Well, I'm not saying the only thing they know, but that's where they most likely would go to is the internet to find how to solve their problems. So we interviewed a teacher. She's a kindergarten teacher, and this was her views on how it is to teach this generation, Generation Z. She has found that most of her students have a hard time handling multi-step directions. She feels like she has to really, really break it down for students. Like, okay, students, we're going to sit down, take out your pencil. Now you're going to do this and that, and it's just very step by step. So they don't handle multi-step directions well. They are also, as mentioned before, dependent on wanting answers quickly. So, for example, she said that sometimes students will come and ask her, how do you do this? And she'll say, why don't you figure it out or go ask your partners in your table, and they will say something like, oh, I don't know how, or so they're not dependent on trying to figure things out on their own. She is also seeing that, well, she's afraid that most of the Generation Z is losing on their basic skills because everything is so technology based. The emphasis on learning how to write their name or use pencil and paper is less. So that's the disadvantage of Generation Z, is that they losing on those basic skills that will help them in the future. However, she did mention that they're very knowledgeable with technology skills. So that's a great thing to have, because it also involves the parents to become and get on board with all the technology, all the learning sites they have to use in school. It kind of gets the parents involved a bit more, and that is a positive thing about Generation Z. So the question is, how can we teach these students? So one way is to use a more collaborative learner center. So that can encourage students to relate to the curriculum and be able to respond. It seems that Generation Z wants to feel that connection with what they're learning. So to have curriculum that is promoted and designed for that. Also, to have teachers become more professional in how to use social media, have teachers be open to the fact that this generation is mostly technology based. That's what they know, so why not utilize that for the good and help them utilize social media to help them learn concepts as well. Teachers need to be more flexible on that and be open to using social media and to learning all those things as well. Also, teachers can use YouTube videos to reinforce concepts. Since Generation Z likes to watch videos more than read an article about something, why not use that to their advantage? Also, be able to incorporate technology as much as possible, knowing that that's how they learn the best, not the only thing, but if that's how they learn the best, then why not use it for them? And so here we have a little chart that kind of gives the difference between the baby boomers and the Generation Z. So another way is using cooperative learning. So not all young people know how to learn in cooperative groups. As mentioned before, Generation Z has low skills in team playing. So using cooperative learning can help them, and it's important for us to teach them as educators, because this applies best practices that they can learn. And also they can learn to work as a team, because as they go on to the workforce or in college, that's something that they will need to have like as a skill to learn to work with others. Also, like it mentioned, they can develop those skills, and you can give them tasks so they can work as a group, have those social skills, and that will help them in college. So for today's young adolescents, success in school and later in college or the workplace will demand critical thinking skills. So having students use cooperative learning or using cooperative learning will increase those critical thinking skills, will develop them so they can be successful as they go on to high school and college and even to the workplace. Here's a chart that also that research shows how cooperative learning helps students, especially Generation Z. It can help them with higher achievement, increase their retention, help them be more motivated, have that social support, and higher self-esteem. So this using cooperative learning would be a great thing for Generation Z. So here's a short video that gives a little bit more insight of what Generation Z is.
Employers are only beginning to understand millennials' needs in the workplace, and yet we need to focus on the next cohort of future employees, Generation Z. You might think that Gen Z is too young to take seriously, but in just 3 years, the first wave of Gen Z workers will hit the job market. The race for Gen Z begins now. Universum asked 50,000 high school graduates about their future plans. Let's see how they compare. More than half of Gen Z are open to joining the workforce straight out of high school to avoid crippling student loan debt if companies are willing to educate them. Being digital natives and growing up with successful startups, 55% of Gen Z are keen on starting their own company. While Generation Z is fairly optimistic about their future, they are less hopeful than millennials on surpassing their parents' standard of living. Similarly to millennials, Gen Z also fears having jobs that don't match their personality, having no development opportunities, and not realizing career goals. Surprisingly, Gen Z females worry about gender discrimination hindering their career advancement. Facebook and social media aren't dead. 83% of Gen Z want to be contacted by future employers through social networking sites regarding work opportunities. However, proceed with caution. More than half of them are against social media ads. To find out even more about Gen Z's views of work life, future employers, and career goals, visit us at universumglobal.com.
So here is our references, and I hope you enjoyed our video. Thank you for watching.